This is a photograph that shows all of the varieties that are growing at my family's vineyard. It's taken from the vantage point of a small vineyard block called the Shale Terrace. Right at our feet you can see the many gopher mounds, and right behind that is the Shale Terrace. It's a very small block, and we're looking further toward the center, where there's, right at the middle of the picture, are Chardonnay vines. Off slightly on the right, with the less greenness of the leaves, is the old vineyard block, planted in 1912. And up on the hill behind them is a block, or several blocks, of mature vine Zinfandel. At the far left, you see a very corner of the block, which is some of the Cabernet. I'm not actually kissing this cluster, but taking a bite out of it. I find that this is much more realistic way to get a reasonable sample of types of grapes that I'm going to get when we harvest this stuff. If I just pluck off an exterior berry, I've got a berry that has been exposed to the sun and in environment more thoroughly than those interior to the cluster. So I find it's just much more sensible to actually cut the cluster off and bite it and take a bite out of it. I'll keep the rest of the cluster for some chemical analysis, essentially measuring some of the major things like the sugar levels and acidity and pH, back at the winery. That also then will give me a chance to separate the tissues and take a look at their relative ripeness, such as how the seeds are ripening and if I'm in the mood to taste some of the stems. But at this point, what I'm looking for is the overall flavor of the juice. I'm looking for the flavors and tannic qualities of both the skins and the seeds. And about the only way to do that is to stick them on your mouth and to taste them. This is a bin full of Zinfandel grapes on its way to the winery, and we'll be picking this up and destemming it. The size of this box here is about 4 feet by 4 feet. It holds approximately half of a ton.
How do you destem it?
We have a machine that flings the grapes around. Here is a bin of grapes being gently tilted so the grapes will fall onto our sorting table. You can see that we are then going to sort through them. We've got a bent pitchfork to help pull some of the grapes out and spread them out on the table so we can look at pretty much all of the clusters and decide which ones, if any, need to be removed from the machine. This is a photograph of the interior, kind of the grape's point of view of a destemmer. You can see that it's got a beater bar in the middle, which is essentially an auger with the little rubber-tipped fingers on it, which rotate inside of a basket that has holes in it. The grapes will tumble around, the grapes will become dislodged from the stems, and the grapes fall through the holes. The stems work their way out to the other end and fall into a place that does not go into the fermentation vat. So it's a good way to separate the tasty things from the not tasty things.
Do many of the grapes, the berries, get broken, or do most come through unbroken?
Depending upon the integrity of the grapes, a small proportion to a large proportion may or may not become broken.
I'm talking to Fred Scherrer and trying to learn a little bit about what he does to make these fabulous wines. Fred, I think this is 5:30 in the morning. The winery's already lit up. What's going on?
Well, we're starting our workday here at the winery, and we turn the lights on so we can see what we're doing. We start off in the morning by doing punch downs and whatever other work needs to be done during the day. Anyway, I think the point of this photograph here is that we start before the sun comes up and we finish after it's gone down. This is a view of a vat of most likely Pinot Noir being punched down with our punch down paddle. It's essentially a piece of cutting board that's been cut to a disc, and it is attached to a hoe handle. We use that to push the floating portion of the grapes, which is the skins, back down into the liquid. It accomplishes a couple of things: mixing. It pushes things that are kind of dry down into the wet stuff to keep any vinegar-making organisms we don't want from proliferating, and it also tends to break a small proportion of the berries each day. That way we kind of layer in the material that is coming into contact.
This vat was filled one time. Do you add to it as you go along, or it's one fill?
We try not to add to it. Sometimes a small block is ready all at once, and we'll pick it all and put it into a vat. Other times, a small portion of that block may want a couple more days. So in those cases, if the logistics work out and the size of the lot is too small really to ferment all by itself, I'll add to it. But generally, I try to fill it and have it as one cohesive unit through the whole process.
And how long are the grapes in this vat? How many days do you do this punch down?
It varies depending on the material and what we're trying to accomplish, but it can be anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks. With Pinot Noir, it tends to average closer to 3 weeks and a couple of days, but it really depends on the material.
What tells you that it's done?
When it tastes right is the short answer. We will explore some pictures of a bunch of glasses, which we can come back to this very subject.